This is where I like to begin from. All right, from a very interesting quote from 2019, posted by the GFA president, Keto Kreku himself. This was posted on his Twitter page in July 2019. This was exactly 1 month after the Anas expose. Okay, so context is everything. It's extremely important. And he posted an image accompanying the quote, and it's from Plato, the famous Greek philosopher. And he says, "No one is more hated than he who speaks the truth." And my favorite thing about this was what accompanied it, the caption that accompanied it from Ket himself. And he says, "Being honest is the only way." Being honest about our football in 2019 and 2023 is the only way. And I perfectly agree. So we have to be truthful. Because truth never hurts a just cause. If the truth hurts you, then it means your cause is unjust. And as youth, it is our duty to speak the truth, to challenge corruption. To speak the truth is to be patriotic. Patriotism doesn't mean being loyal to the FA president. It means being loyal to the country. That's what patriotism is. And it would be very unpatriotic if you don't oppose the FA president if he's inefficiently running the country or the country's football. And if you support him when he's doing an efficient job, that in itself is also patriotism. But ultimately, we owe it to ourselves to speak the truth. Because integrity is speaking truth to myself. But honesty is speaking truth to the people. And I know what you all think about our football. So if you're not afraid to think it, then don't be afraid to say it. And that's why I'm here, to speak the truth. The only way that our football can get back. And this is extremely important, okay? And I'm speaking the truth tonight because our football is on its dying legs. And if the football dies, it's not only going to affect the over 70,000 registered footballers in this country who are directly employed by the football ecosystem, but even us as journalists. I had the opportunity to cover my first ever World Cup in Qatar 2022. If this football collapses and we don't qualify for the next World Cup, which at the moment is looking like a realistic chance, I would never be able to cover a World Cup again. Daniel Cranton has never covered a World Cup. If we don't go to 2026, he will never cover a World Cup. It affects his career. He's never been to an AFCON. If we don't go to the next AFCON, which has a realistic chance of happening, he may never cover the African Cup of Nations. And that's why this means everything to us as journalists, as it should to you, the fans. And Ghana football has given us unprecedented moments of happiness. I remember when we first qualified for the World Cup in 2006, the unbridled joy in the faces of people. We lost to Brazil in the round of 16, but we gave the players a hero's welcome. You know why? Because they played with pride and made the country proud. We actually took pride in the fact that we outplayed the Brazilians. We said, oh, we played better than them. That's the pride of the Ghanaian. Today, we cannot say that of our football. In the last 16 months alone, we have witnessed unprecedented, catastrophic failures involving our national teams. Unprecedented is what I'm talking about. Never happened before. Look at the numbers in our football industry. 1,000 players in the Premier League, 2,000 in Division 1, 43,000 in Division 2 and 3, and a further 23,000 in juvenile football. Ghana's unemployment rate now hovers between 3.5% and 10%. If you add 70,000 more young men and women into those numbers, you know the kind of pressure it puts on social amenities? Do you understand the impact of that on crime? And that's why it is essential that our football succeeds. And that's why I'm going to go with this. Now, it started in January 2022. Ghana crashed out after shock loss to Comoros. And that shock, many people have still not recovered. This tournament was the worst AFCON tournament in the history of Ghana. We had crashed out of group stages of AFCON tournament before, but never in the history of the competition have we crashed out without winning a game. Unwanted history. And look at the results. And even before this Morocco game, we played a friendly match against Algeria. We were embarrassed 3-0. Then we lost to Morocco. Then we drew against Gabon. We lost to Comoros. And pay attention to the teams we are losing against. We crashed out Porto. It was that bad. At this tournament, we spent over $4 million in return for what exactly? We got used to losing. After the tournament, we played friendly games. We went to Japan, got whipped 4-1. Who doesn't remember in 2007, after the 2006 World Cup, we went on an Asia tour. We beat Japan, beat South Korea, beat everybody. That was the Black Stars. We went to Brazil. We faced Brazil. We lost 1-0. People were proud. We recently played a friendly game against Brazil. We lost 3-0. And the explanation was, but it's Brazil. Did you expect to beat Brazil? You move it on. And then in May 2022, under 20 qualifying, we went to Niger as defending champions, African defending champions of the under 20 Africa Cup of Nations, looking to qualify in a group of 3 teams. We lost to Nigeria in the opening game and we got beaten by Burkina Faso. We crashed out with 0 points, bottom of the group, defending champions, embarrassed. In June, Black Satellites. We have never qualified for the under 17 since 2017. We're going on 8 years. The first time we hosted the competition here, seeking to qualify. It was in Cape Coast, with 3 teams in the group. And look at the results. In our first game, we lost 4-2 against Nigeria. We did recover to beat Togo, but in the semi-finals, which team again? Burkina Faso. You're telling me that Burkina Faso are doing football better than Ghana? Just before I came on air, the people trooping into Pusiga, refugees running to Ghana. There's no safe harbor in their own country. And they are the ones that are doing football better than us. And then after the game, and look at one of the reasons that was given for why we lost. 2 weeks to the tournament, that's when the GFA president ordered an MRI test on the players. And 20 out of 28 players who were at the competition failed the MRI test 2 weeks to the competition. These players had been camping in the country for more than 1 month. Nobody in their right wisdom thought, let's do this test and make sure that the players that we have are players that are qualified to play in this competition. You understand me? Are players who are qualified to play in this competition. Nobody, except 2 weeks to the competition. That's when we needed to do this. The sheer incompetence of that alone is inexplicable. Makes 0 sense. And then you follow that up. In December, we went to the World Cup. Well, everybody knows the story of the World Cup. I don't want to stay there. We won 1 game, but dear Lord, in that game against South Korea, if you had a pregnant wife who was close to labor, they would have given birth. Because of the sheer pressure we suffered in the last 15 minutes of that game. That is not how we play football. One of the worst performances I've ever seen of any Black Stars team. We were leading for majority of that game, but we were never comfortable. What's the name of that Korean striker? Every ball, panyai. It was unbelievably poor. It was like we didn't have coaches on the bench. That's our national team. That's the Black Stars of Ghana. We waited 12 years for revenge against Uruguay, only to get embarrassed again. Personally, this hurt more than surgery. It was incredibly poor. And then you move it on, Black Galaxies. These are the local Black Stars. We had never qualified for the CHAN tournament since 2014. This was the first time we're making the competition. In 9 years, we went there and we got beaten by Madagascar. We beat Sudan, and then FA officials were seen in the video singing, "I know my level. I know my level." Your level is beating Sudan? That's what you're excited about? Let's set proper targets for ourselves. Are we not ashamed? And look, we got to the quarterfinal, and it is Niger that have eliminated us. So Burkina Faso, Comoros, Niger, these are the countries eliminating Madagascar. Think about that. These are the countries eliminating us from major competitions now. And you think our football is not dead? The Black Meteors are the ones that have brought us here. Just ended competition. The worst football I have ever seen in my entire life. And listen, I have played a football game where we lost 13-0. But it was not this bad. In that tournament, I played in that game, 90 minutes. We lost 13-0. But it wasn't this bad. At least we outpossessed the opponent. We could string a few passes together. Cranting and I were doing 1-2s. These players couldn't do 2 or 3 passes. I'm not saying it. John said it himself. And if there's anyone that is in a better position to tell us that players can't put passes together, it is someone like Asamoah Gyan, a legend like him. And listen to the outbursts from all of our ex-players. Jan is complaining. Ajibambadu is complaining. Deribwat is complaining. Everybody is complaining. And when you talk, people think that it is personal. The results were embarrassed. The deputy sports minister went on a tour of the Moroccan FA's football facility. He came and granted an interview where he was crying. But you see, there are crocodile tears because he knows, but he won't do. What has he done? Are you telling me that this is the first time the deputy sports minister has seen a world-class sporting facility? And the people who are responsible for this, the Ghana Football Association, they are the decision makers. Because the Kroku came into power in 2019. It's just not personal. He made promises. These are his promises of what he will do with our World Cup money. He said he will set up a World Cup benefit fund. Where is the fund? That fund is non-existent. He has not done it. And this is how he wanted to allocate it. 60% to clubs, 10% to GALCA, 5% to Coaches Association, 10% to PFAG, 5% to Referees Association, 5% to Juvenile and Coach Football. All of that money has not come because that fund is non-existent. You don't make promises you can't fulfill. He said he will set up a central fund. There is no central fund as we speak. And this was the thing that the central fund was supposed to do. Where will it set it from? It's a proceeds from FIFA Forward. The FIFA Forward money is in. We have used some of the money to construct an AstroTurf, for example, in Winkogo. It is part of the money we are using to construct boreholes. $250,000 of the FIFA Forward money has been allocated to constructing boreholes across the country. And I like the idea of boreholes, and I'll get to that briefly. But if you use FIFA Forward money to construct one facility in Winkogo, last week, I saw a story. The facility was named after Ket Okreku. You have gone for FIFA money. You have come to construct a facility in a village. Okay? And then you're telling us that it is the chief who has decided to name the facility after you. It's the facility for the chief. Meanwhile, do you know how many ex-players we have that have hailed from the Upper East region? Their most famous son is probably the most famous Ghanaian footballer of all time, Abedi Pele. You've managed the first ever facility the GFA has put together in the Upper East region. Mr. President has decided that they should name it after him. And he said it's the people of Winkogo who have named it after him. The people of Winkogo is the facility. Was it funded by them? It's like you have gone for, it's like maybe President Kufuor has gone for American money. Then you come and construct George Walker Bush Highway. Then you don't name it after George Walker Bush. Then you come and name it after yourself. I wouldn't even have blamed him if they named it after Abedepele or even Gianni Infantino. And look at this. He said he would do this for the National Women's League. And the things overlap. And that's why I'm going to the Premier League competition. One of the biggest problems we have in this country is our Premier League. A dead product. And Kurt made promises of how he was going to revive it. Let's go through them. And we'll provide a marking scheme. Out of 16, from my analysis, he's only managed to do 4 out of the 16. And his term of office is ending in October. He didn't give a time limit for when he was supposed to finish this. So, autonomy, no Premier League autonomy. Good sponsorship, no good sponsorship. Good media rights syndication, no rights syndication. Improve the quality of fan experience. People don't even go. Go to Accra Sports Stadium, and then your stomach car you. You will run home. When you go to the stadium, there is nothing there for you. We're only selling the football. Nothing else around the football. So, improve quality of fan experience, 0. Create family-friendly stadia. Family-friendly stadia. Will you take your son or your daughter to the stadium?
Why?
Enhance the corporate image and brand of the Ghana Football Association. It has worsened. And get the police administration to create special sports policy. No special sports policy. Steward system. No steward system. Properly designated media centers. Hey, when I go to the Accra Sports Stadium, I can't even find a place to sit. That's Accra Sports Stadium. If you go to other places, the media, we stand behind the net and hold the net like this and watch the football from behind the net. To go and report on it. You really think that it is all worth that risk? And when you do the match report and you come and post it, only 5 people have read the story. Because nobody cares. Okay? Establishment of a stats department. They hired one person, Mo Shaban. He's the stats department. He's doing his best. But all he's doing is collating goals and assists. That's not what stats are. That's not what stats are. Goals, assists, yellow cards. Really? What about passes? What about chance creation? What about possession? Those things are what enhance conversations. And there are many, many stat softwares that can be purchased with a properly run department that can implement all of these things at our league centers to enhance our league. Nobody is doing it. Nobody is interested. Timely, free, and fair judicial adjudicative mechanism. We finished the league and we're still sitting on Kim Faisal case. Is that timely? Good coverage. Well, that's up to you to judge. Enhance existing revenue streams. The clubs don't have extra source of money. And you see, and it said including new media. They've created YouTube channels, the FA. And they're posting highlights there, and the YouTube channels is raking in revenue. The clubs, whose content they are posting there, do they have a share of revenue from the YouTube money? I'm asking you. Has the FA ever called you to tell you that the Premier League highlights and Division 1 League highlights we're posting on YouTube, we have this amount of money and this is how we are sharing it? They've created the digital media, all right, but are you getting the money? Okay? Introduce a merit award system. They did it for 1 season. This year has ended. I don't know where the merit system has gone. Provision of internet facility to the media. Hey, Daniel, you go to the stadium. Have you ever had free internet?
My network will cut.
Tisho, you run commentary all around this country. Every stadium you've been there. Is there a single stadium in the Ghana Premier League where you've gone and you've received free internet?
No, there's nothing like that. Nothing like that anyway.
So on that score, Kent actually scored 0.
0. Apart maybe the stewardship, they introduced the clubs couldn't maintain it, but they trained them to introduce it. To be
evaluation is a key part of it.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, National Women's League clubs, same thing. Okay, now this is funny. Okay, this is what Kent said he was going to give the Premier League. He said he would upgrade every Premier League's match venue. Look, the pitches. He said he would personally upgrade. The FA will help upgrade the training pitches of Premier League clubs and the installation of borehole facilities. The borehole facilities is happening. The idea behind it is to make sure that there is water to water the pitches. But when you watch our league, do you see that the pitches are being watered? Supply of free computers for Ghana Premier League. They're giving every club free computer. So 2 is correct. 3, supply of free training for coaches. They organize some refresher courses for coaches, but it is not universally free. If you promise universal free, you must provide universal free. 30 pairs of football boots. That's what he has fulfilled by sharing boots. 30 players, free registration. There is no free registration. So that's a lie. Provision of 35% of World Cup benefit money. Zilch, no World Cup benefit money. Access to club support fund, no club support fund. Supply of free internet facility. They gave each club 1 table net. Buy your own internet. Supply of 50 footballs for all Premier League clubs. They give them 10. Supply of 4 sets of training beds. Zilch. Free player registration cards for 30 players. No free registration. Access to the medical fund. No medical fund. And many more initiatives. I have not seen the many more initiatives. And that is what brings me here. National teams are everything. Now, this was Kurt Okreku speaking in an interview in 2019 before the elections to TV3. And my good friend Ofosilabi did that interview where he specifically noted what the issue was with our national teams and how he intended to fix our national teams. Let's take a listen to him.
Ghana football has a bad public image.
Yeah. But it looks like the Black Stars.
That includes the Black Stars. Yeah. That includes the Black Stars. And I think that we have taken a lot of small details for granted.
Yeah.
I would want to start the rebuilding of our various products from the beginning, from the grassroots. Over a period of time, the quality of our national teams, be it U17, U20, U23, the CHAN, the women's teams, would improve. And that will ultimately feed into the senior or the A teams of Ghana. Now, we want to put together a national team that is truly Ghanaian, a national team that will always look back and say that we are who we are today because of Ghana.
Right.
Okay, we want to put together players who truly represent the colors of Ghana and look at the badge, the crest, and say that I am a Ghanaian.
Right.
Okay, not players who come, unfortunately, to fight over bonuses. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that we shouldn't reward players when they perform well.
Are they rewarded astronomically?
It is important that we take one step back,
right,
and clearly look at our reward system when it comes to the national teams. I don't think that we commercializing the national teams is the way forward.
Right.
I think that players, officers who represent our country should feel, first of all, proud of representing our dear nation. And of course, if there's anything.
All right, let's not commercialize our national team. You know how monies were shared at the World Cup? It's become Black Starpreneurship. People use the Black Stars to make money. It shouldn't be. And you see, my good friend Aminu Shado just sent me a message where he was indicating to me that the funds, the medical funds, central funds were all launched 3 years ago. So today, the clubs, and I spoke to a club official before coming on air, they have no idea what that is or how they have benefited from any of it. And you see, I have one view when it comes to national teams, and you had Kev there. He said our national teams was at an all-time low support for it. They launched some initiatives, bring back the love, but clearly we all know the love is far gone right now. At least in this very moment, the national team stinks. The national team, especially the Black Stars, We have been made clear from the very beginning to the last by the FA, by the ministry, that it is funded completely by the Ministry of Youth and Sport. The Ministry of Youth and Sport is not a business entity. It's a government agency whose funds come from the taxpayer. It comes from my pocket. So any money that comes from my pocket or any other person's pocket that goes into paying people, I think we should have a responsibility of knowing that the people that are serving in these national teams are qualified enough and deserve to be there. That every Ghanaian feel like they have an equal chance. Because why would we conduct interviews for national team coaches, for the Black Stars, but every other position we don't care? And that's why now there are rumors or there are allegations that of nepotism, that they're fixing their own people there. And the people may be competent, but when the other people outside don't feel like they have an equal chance, there is a problem. That's where you have to recognize that there is a problem. And I made this point the other day on radio, and I repeat it here. Hamid Shadu is team manager for the Black Stars. He's my very good friend. He's a brother. He's been working in that position since the last international break. In fact, since the last 2 international breaks. There is no official announcement of his appointment. You think a position this important, somebody is working there full time, you wouldn't announce to everybody that he's the one that has filled the role. We have to see him working. What are you afraid of? You understand? And you see, during the normalization committee, there were subcommittees that were ad hoc committees that were formed. One of them, and a key part of the ad hoc committees, was actually the National Team Reform Ad Hoc Committee. It was chaired by Dr. Patrick Ofori. Frank Edu Jr., the former MD for Carbank, was a member of that committee, a highly respected businessman. These guys sat down and came up with a document on how our national teams should be run. And I've picked some key aspects of that document just to show you. And this was before the elections. And this was adapted and could have been used. And this could have saved us an awful lot of what's going on right now. Look at the governance structure. They recommended the formation of a national teams board and a national team secretariat. We don't have a national teams board. And they said that should replace the management committees. And yet we went to the workout with management committees and paid a lot of people money. National team technical coordinators, national team finance, research, training and development, national game football development, welfare officers, equipment facilities, and what have you. Executive secretary of the national teams, monitoring and evaluation department. We don't have a single one of these. They even made recommendations on what should be the backroom staff makeup of our national teams. And you have them: head coach, 2 assistants, goalkeepers coach, team doctor, fitness trainer. We went to the workout without a team psychologist. You see, it talks about welfare. And this place is really important to me, of how bonuses should be shared and how it should be determined. You understand? Now, senior national team players' bonuses is proposed to be allocated as follows. 90% of the money should go to the player, 5% to the player's immediate secondary or tertiary school. And you see, this had an eye on benefiting directly from where the player came from. That money, at the World Cup, they handed every player's money to them, 100% of it. Take. And the schools where, the tertiary schools or the secondary schools where the players came from got nothing. For you players, they said give 70% to the player, and 10% to the player's secondary school, and 10% to the player's club. You know? And they even recommended how call-outs should be made. And this is a key one. The new Center of Excellence in Pram Pram, it should have 10 pitches. And Keto Kriki himself promised something like that. But go to Pram Pram. How many pitches are there? So we have a big problem. And it's an essential problem that has to be solved.